What's going on, everyone? We are live with the latest person eliminated, voted out of the game. Phill, how are you doing?
I'm doing a lot better than I was a month ago when it happened, but I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. Obviously, it's no surprise you were very threatening in the game. You were able to find idols, win challenges. So talk to me a little bit about that.
I have a brain for puzzles, I guess. I mean, as you saw, I was able to win one challenge that we did win in Miami. So I was always on the lookout. I was always on the lookout I was analyzing everything that you said, Lauren. Maybe a little bit too much on some things like CSCYA.
And that meant nothing.
It meant nothing, but I'm sitting here over analyzing every single thing, thinking everything's got to be something. You never know. But I was able to find two. I was able to win an immunity challenge. I mean, that's some of the things that I wanted to do was get an idol, play it right, win an immunity challenge, and I did do those things. So I am happy about that. But the downside is it paints a big target on my back. And that's exactly what happened. And then when I finally couldn't protect myself, there was nothing I could do. I tried everything I could.
So I want to touch on your idols real quick because obviously you played the first one correctly. Now, the second one was definitely a toss-up for you. I know you did mention that you were going to potentially play that on yourself or Morgan. So walk me through the ultimate decision to play it on yourself.
Well, yeah, I definitely was considering playing it for Morgan because I was trying to keep anybody that was working with me in the game, and then, try to open things up for myself. And I kept going back and forth. Frank played this after Frank played the steal a vote on me. And since I didn't have a vote and I was waiting 10, 15 minutes while everybody else was voting, I'm sitting there thinking about it. Because normally when you play a steal a vote, you don't play the steal a vote on the person you're voting out. Because in case there's a tie, then you don't get to steal that vote again. But not everybody goes by that. And I knew that I was a threat. And if I played it on Morgan and if I played it on Morgan and I got voted out, that'd be a tough pill to swallow. So ultimately, I didn't want to leave the game. And I just played it on myself because I wanted to stay in the game. I wish that I kept it because I could have used it on tonight's episode, although I probably, with the double vote out, would have just been voted out when Jeremy was voted out. And then that would have ruined Jeremy's thing and wanting to be the last one of our sticks left in the game.
So does that mean you wouldn't have done well with the jury questions?
Some of those questions, because I didn't get a lot of time with Ian and Morgan, and some of those questions I really didn't know. Corey, I talked to hardly any at all. The only thing I knew about Corey was that he was a Steelers fan, so I would have got that one right. But I don't think I would have done as good as Carrie did.
Speaking of our six, pre-game, before that six was even formed, what was your thoughts going into the whole thing? Your cast, what do you do?
Before the six, before I talked to you, McKenna, the only one I had talked to at that time was Pook. Because when on the specialist page, when they were talking about wanting to do this game, I didn't exactly know what I was getting into when I agreed to go ahead and do it.
Mm.
And, and then I see the cast list go up and I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden Pook hits me up on the PM and I start talking to him and learning about what I'm kind of getting into. So I was like, okay, this is going to be the real deal here. So I got to talk to more than just one person. So, I'm looking through the names and I remembered McKenna from the trivia show and she seems like she was really cool and really good. So I reached out to McKenna and that's when she tells me about this group that she was with. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be on the top of the group at the time, but I was thinking I can get in with these people. I have good people skills in a way, and I could find a way to get a little farther in.
I mean, hey, it worked at least for me because as you saw in the pregame stuff, I was closer to Ian, Morgan, and Annabelle. But when we got swapped together, it stuck together like glue. So who knows? So this episode, we saw a confessional from you saying like you and Denny are close, you're really tight, you think you're going to the end. But in previous votes and in the prior episode after the challenge, you have a little tip, you have arguments. What were your thoughts of how did you feel that you were still close with Denny at that point?
Because we did have a personal relationship, because we got along really well and we bonded over the fact that we're the same age and we both have families, and we both have the same work hours pretty much, starting at 5 a.m. practically, so we were able to talk in the mornings, and and it was the fact that we had a lot in common. Except she's a Bills fan, I'm a Dolphins fan. But we got along really well on a personal level for most of the game. So at that point, it was after she backstabbed me with McKenna, and after I backstabbed her with Pook, I was like, okay, we're on it. I talked to her, we made a final deal to go to the end with each other because we're both threats. We can, like I said, we can watch each other's back, or at least that's what I thought.
Right.
I was clearly dead wrong on a lot of that. She did not trust me anymore at all. She wanted me the crap out of there. But I'm trying to deal with anybody that I can, because I don't know who I can work with. So,
and so also backtrack real quick on his one point where he talked about you backstab by letting Pook go out of the game instead of voting for Frank. Do you think that was a mistake?
Looking back at it, yeah, it probably was. But I was also looking at it as we could have got Frank out the last vote. And when you've been telling me so much you want Frank out, and then we had the firepower to do it, and instead you vote out Ian, somebody who I was wanting to work with.
And then you still didn't do it on the next one.
Right. Well, because at that point I couldn't trust anything that they were doing. I couldn't.
I mean, emotions were very high, and there's a lot of ammo with they haven't. That it was a good fight. We'll have to do that, Carrie. But there was a lot of evidence that they're not going to be honest with you. So I can see how you did go and like, you know what? Nope, it's not me. I'm going to get him out. Goodbye.
Right, because it was at the point where Pook wasn't working with me. He was just trying to use me as much as he can, and I wanted to play. I didn't want to be a sheep, even though they called me a sheep after that for not following them. I'm a sheep. I don't get that, but okay. But I wanted to take a chance, maybe try to see if, go with the other side, see if maybe it could work out in my favor. And it turned out working in Denny's favor because I got rid of somebody that was holding her down.
Right.
Had I but known that she had all these connections with people, because from what I know, when she got stolen, that didn't end so well, and it ended up not ending so well because of the idol thing. And the fact that she told me about Corey's idols showed me that she wasn't with them. So I was like, I thought that I could work with Denny.
Right.
So if McKenna would have never gotten voted out in the game by them betraying you, were you 100% you would have been with them? No doubt about it.
Yes, I was 100% with Pook and Denny. Our plan was to have the four of us go into the merge as a real solid tight four with some connections with some of the other people that we could have pulled in, and we probably could have made something happen. So I was all on board on going with that. We were really tight. But then once that happened, then I started looking at him a little bit differently and start paying attention to what moves he's doing.
Right. And I think that's where it gets tricky because honestly, yes, they betrayed you first, then you betrayed them. And then my only thing is, then you still thought you and Denny were like this. I'm thinking, what the heck?
Well, it's almost like the same relationship with Denny and Frank. Denny tried to get Frank out. Frank got out Mikey. So like they butted heads, but now they're like, all right, let's let bygones be bygones. We both took shots at each other, and now they're working together. So that's kind of the same situation Phill and Denny are in. All right, we both took shots at each other. We both got out each other's number ones. Let's just water under the bridge.
Right. That's what I told her. That's, because we were both threats. So it was like, as threats, instead of gunning after each other, because I didn't have faith in winning that, I was like, okay, let's just try to work together and try to get to the end and let the jury decide which threat is the one which one is worth the votes.
Then she cut you loose.
Yeah, but I was still doing everything I can to try to win challenges, because I knew that was the only thing that I could really count on was immunity.
And we saw that you were really close in this challenge. You were seconds away.
Yes.
What was the one thing that was tripping you up? Were you counting something wrong, or was it the cups not being fast enough?
I think it was the cups, because there was at one point I dropped a couple cups and I had to stop and pick up a couple of them. And on the last one, when Logan got it, I had the numbers written correctly. If I would have just gotten through the cups and then put up the numbers, I would have had it, because I had all the numbers.
I feel your pain. That was me in season 1. I feel your pain.
Just took a little too long.
And your plan for the upcoming vote. It seemed from Logan's confessional that you were all over the place trying to scatter votes everywhere to try and hone in on one person. What was your exact plan? What did you tell people? Where were you going?
Well, at first, because it obviously was after the Corey vote, so I was talking to Frank a little bit that morning after he called me. I was at work, so I couldn't stay on the phone with him too long. I said, hey, well, we could talk later at the night or the next morning. And then he never did. And I ended up talking to Logan instead, and he was talking about Frank's idol and playing it, which came out so fast that Frank had an idol. I really didn't believe it. But through our conversations, it was the girls are running the show and let's get out Carrie. But I didn't buy any of it, so I was like, all right, well, I had a plan with them to go Carrie, so I just took that to Carrie just to try to throw the shade someplace else. And obviously they were all in communication with each other, because I was just trying to say, okay, well, if them two are going to go after either Carrie or myself, let's get 3 votes on Frank and then 2 votes on Jeremy as a backup in case Frank is telling the truth about an idol. And
that's
then
the crazy thing. Why would you go for Jeremy as a backup? He was willing to work with you.
I know, but the thing is, it couldn't be Rob, because Carrie was never going to vote for Rob, and Carrie and Rob were never going to vote for Denny. So it's like I have to try to target somebody that people are going to vote for. I mean, we saw that they would vote for Jeremy because they did the very next vote. But,
do you think you could have been more subtle with the vote, though? Only because I feel as though you were trying to put too many plans in motion, and that kind of freaked people out.
Yeah, I know it did, but I was getting desperate, and I just went too crazy. Because I never really played that hard and went that hard as far as with dictating votes or anything like that. I didn't want to be that person. I was just trying to try to keep myself on the right side of numbers, not so much dictate things. But at that point, I was desperate. I knew I was a target, so I was just trying to do anything. I was just trying to do anything I can to save my own skin.
Makes sense.
But it didn't work.
It happened.
I had to try. I had to try.
Yep. Yeah, as long as you go out swinging, that's all you can do. It's the type of players that just are like, I know it's me. I'm just going to chill out, enjoy the tribal council, have some Oreos, have some popcorn, and sit back and relax. So I commend you for trying and giving it your all to try and stay in the game. So I understand that. I do have to bring up on one of the parchments, when you got voted out, it said Phill and your wife.
And my wife, yes. And
Let's
she's
talk about that.
Okay. I mean, I guess the reason that became out because when we were in Zoom calls with everybody with the group, it was after I won that clue for not participating in the Oreo challenge. You know, that's when my wife was talking to me about something that wasn't anything to do with the idol, but the fact that she was there and they overheard her talking about something with numbers, I guess it scared the crap out of people. And, you know, I guess that was a determining factor. Although I did like that they put a lot of checkered flags on my name since I was putting checkered flags on the vote.
For sure.
I did like that. You know, but it is what it is. You know.
Hey, at least you're changing it up, bringing a loved one into the game.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll vote him out.
Phill and Christina, blood versus water. Let's go.
Yeah, there we go. That would be awesome.
Oh, I know Christina would vote.
I voted out my husband.
Oh, we know you would. We know you would vote him out.
In a heartbeat.
Phill, I might change my number 1 to Christina.
Yeah. Yeah, McKenna wouldn't be my number 1 if Christina was there.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to shift and ask you, what is one move that you wish you could have done that you didn't follow through with?
That I didn't follow through with? I don't know. I mean, I wish we would have stuck when Carrie came in and joined us. I wish I would have stayed there and voted out Frank, so then it could have shaken things up.
I think that was the one move.
Yeah.
You know, but I let my emotions get the better of me.
Yeah, it's always a conflict with making those tough decisions. And then also it turns me to this a little bit. Coming into this game, did you know how many hours it was going to take to be involved?
No. It's like I said, when I agreed to do it, I had no idea what this was. I had no idea. And then I watched season 1 and I was like, okay, this is definitely going to be some playing. And then I heard from some people say that you were told 2 or 3 hours was a lie. I was like, okay, well, I'll just have to be on my phone, you know. And I still think that I didn't talk enough with people.
I think that was everybody's sentiment of, I should have talked a little bit more. I should have messaged one more message. I should have stayed an hour longer on this Zoom.
Yeah.
So,
right, like I should have asked if we would be allowed to talk to people on the TRHS side before day 1, but I assumed that we couldn't, and I didn't ask. And
hey, future advice: always ask.
Yeah, if you want to know if you can do something, ask. Don't assume.
Yes.
Yep. 100%.
Always.
Always, yes. Yeah. So is there anyone in particular in the game that you really wanted to work with that you just did not have the chance to do so?
I mean, that's really a tough one. You know, because at the end I kind of wanted to work with Frank, but I didn't get the vibe that he wanted to work with me. After the game, you know, when talking to Corey at Ponderosa, I told him I really misjudged Corey because I thought he was kind of a dick. Yeah. But when talking to him, you know, he's really a cool guy and somebody that I really could have worked with. So I wish we could have worked with Corey, but I only was kind of I thought I was working with Corey only for that one day, you know, after I voted out Pook when they put me in Ian's spot in that alliance that wasn't quite real.
Right.
You know, but that was the only interactions that I really had with Corey in the game. I mean, Rob, I worked with a little bit.
I think you worked with practically everybody this game, it seems.
I tried.
to at least.
Right.
It was like you tried your best at working with everybody, and not everybody took your word.
No, nobody was trusting me enough. I don't know if Denny had something to do with that or not, because I know Denny was talking to everybody, and Denny watching her confessionals said a few times, "I can't trust Phill. I can't trust Phill."
Yeah, she wanted to get you out in my spot, so
Yeah,
she'd been thinking about getting you out for a while
yeah,
now.
clearly. But I mean, that's the game.
But hey, 7's not bad.
No, I'm not complaining about my games. Like I said, I won immunities. I won an immunity. I found immunity idols. I had a big win in the pre-merge
Yes.
with that puzzle when I finally got to do a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I did a blind side.
A blind side? I think we did many blind sides, Phill.
Yeah.
This game has been basically all blind sides.
Right.
I think the ratio is definitely more blind sides to regular straight votes.
Definitely. But I mean, those were all things that I wanted to do in the game, and I had a good time, made a couple good friends. Mostly one.
So, Lauren, ask your question that you always ask everybody.
Oh yeah. Phill, would you play it again?
I would play again. 100%.
If I let him.
Yeah, if she lets me, I would play again.
Perfect.
Because it took a lot of time, and it took a lot of time away from her, which was a little bit stressful in its own way.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in a tribal council. I think Frank brought it up that, like, you're there, but there's a glass wall.
Right. I'm physically there, but mentally, I'm right in here.
Honey, you can't ignore me.
No, I can't ignore you.
Walling up. I break you down.
Right. That's why sometimes at tribal, they see me looking and say,
Yes.
But yeah, I would play again.
Well, it sounds like a lot of people from this season would play again. So maybe in the future we might see season 1 versus season 2. You never know.
Right. I've heard that, and I would be okay with that. As long as Pook's on the season 1 side. Which he said he would be.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. All right, Phill, you got anything else for us before we bring in the next person that was voted out?
Just my thanks to all you guys, to you and Ryan, the host, and Russell and Denise for putting this all together. It was a lot of fun, and I was glad I was able to be a part of it.
Thanks so much, Phill. We appreciate having you on the season, and looking forward to staying connected and seeing what happens with the rest of the episodes.
Yeah, I can't
You're
wait.
You're a jury member, so we'll see how you vote.
Yeah. See how you vote and see what you have to say at Final Tribal.
Oh, it's going to be good.
Bye, Phill.
No doubt.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, Phill.
Bye.
All right, everyone. I'm going to bring in the next person that was voted out. Here he is, Jeremy. And Jeremy, also another person that I think is trying to join the stream with us is Ryan. But I don't know if the reception is quite good where he is. It's going to be random if this is going to be able to connect or not.
Yeah.
It is Ryan, so we'll see. But Jeremy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Lauren. Wish I could be here under other circumstances, but I got my whiskey and I'm ready to talk about the game.
I'm ready to hear about your game because honestly, for me, I feel as though you were a bit under the radar, but you really were a silent assassin in this game. And I don't think people were able to see that.
Yeah, definitely in this game, that is something that I wanted to come in as, because what nobody knew going into this game is that I had played an ORG before. And so I knew what to expect. I knew how much time it was going to be put into it. And I knew I had to play a different game than what I played last time. The first game that I played was very trusting. And after I got blindsided at the merge vote, I was done. But I knew this time I had to still have that trusting character about myself, but I still had to play my own game. And that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah, can you talk about some of your subtle game moves that you did do? Because you were doing so much behind the scenes that I don't think people realized.
Yeah, so definitely what Ian was talking about was my ability to read a room and read people was my biggest strength. And so you hear in some of my confessionals that I don't trust Corey whenever he's supposedly in our 5-person alliance with Ian, Morgan, myself, Rob, and Corey. And it was at the merge vote where all the Nakota people were in a Zoom call, and we were talking about idols being played. And Denny had told me previously about Corey's idol, and I kind of believed it, but Ian and Morgan were like, no, I think Denny has it. And we were talking about idols in this Zoom call, and I look up at Corey, and usually Corey is someone who is very interactive with everybody at all times. And at that point, he was on his phone constantly looking down, very silent. And I said, that I can't trust that. And I looked around at the other TRHS people on Nakota, and they were all kind of doing the same thing. And I knew Ian or Morgan was going home at that point. Then we move over to Morgan's vote, and you hear me and Morgan talking about it's probably going to be one of us if Frank places steal a vote. And when we get into that Zoom call, Frank has multiple personalities that he likes to put on. And so one of those is the sunglasses, and he already had that personality coming into that Nakota Zoom call before Morgan's boot. And I was like, they are not with us. They're going to use a steal a vote. It's going to be Morgan because Morgan's is considered a bigger threat than I am at this point. And so at that point in the game, I knew Ian and Morgan had to go for my game. And so knowing all of that I was able to start playing my game from that point on.
So we heard you talk about a little bit like Frank thinks you're not playing a game, and he said that pre-merge. Mm-hmm. How did that come about? Like, what was happening that made Frank think that you had no game?
Yeah, so during pregame, I didn't reach out to Frank at all, and you hear Frank talk about in several confessionals that he didn't reach out to anybody during pregame. Yeah. And then day one, after we vote Frank and we swap, I still don't trust Frank at all. Like when the cast was released, I was thinking, Frank number 1, Pook is number 2. They gotta go.
Same.
and I'm still not talking to Frank, but I know that Ian and Morgan are, which I didn't really like. And then Ian sends me a message day one saying, dude, you need to reach out to Frank. Like, he doesn't trust you. And I knew I had to, but I didn't want to. And that was the one conversation we had that entire game was, hey, where's your head at right now? Are we good? And that was it. And then we just never talked. And then I would hear from Ian saying that or Ian or someone, I can't remember, just that Frank is not really respecting your game much. And so that's where my rivalry just started with Frank, and I wanted him out ever since.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. But do you think, I know you sometimes in the game of Survivor, there's particular people you don't want to interact with and you don't want to talk to. Yeah. Looking back now, do you think, yes, I should have talked to Frank, I should have reached out to him?
Now that I think about it after the last few days, probably, as you saw in Frank's last confessional in this episode, that he thought about working with me and Phill, but because we didn't talk, he didn't reach out. And so it may have saved us, but I mean, you never know. But I probably should have reached out to Frank.
But he also said that he didn't talk to you.
No.
So the conversation's a two-way street here. So I don't think that's totally just on you.
Yeah, for sure. And part of my game was during pre-merge, and the pre-game stuff was I wanted people to come to me, because I'm usually the person that reaches out to people and all this stuff, and I wanted to try something different. And no one was coming to me. in pregame right until basically Phill reached out to me about the 6-person alliance. And then once the game started, none of the TRHS people were really coming to me. And so I knew I had to change up my game and start just reaching out to people like I normally do.
So our 5 reached out to you for a 6, but you trusted nobody. Like you were like, I want to get everybody here out. You weren't like, oh, let me try and like weasel my way to the top. You were like, no, everyone's going. I'm not having a single ally. Let's go.
Yeah, and it really came down to how things were worded when Phill was messaging me at that point. And he messaged me saying, hey, have you really talked to anybody? And I said, no, not really. I think I may have had a conversation with John before that, but that was probably it. And he just messaged me saying, hey, a group of 6 of us were getting together. Like, do you want in? And I was just like, yeah, I want in.
Right.
But I'm the last person you're bringing in. Yeah, so I'm just like, all of you guys are already together. Like, I can't trust any of you. Like, I'll work with you, but you guys gotta go.
Yeah, John did say I tried reaching out to Jeremy, so yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
John-
okay, so you get on that tribe with the Nakota people, and obviously it's clear to see that you're close with Ian and Morgan. Who are you closest to, though?
Definitely Ian. It was right after that first challenge. I knew going into the game that I wanted to work with Ian, even though I still didn't trust him at all at this point. And we got into the Nakota Zoom call after the challenge, and I was just fingers crossed that it was just me and him at the very end. And it was. And we stayed on until about, I would say 2:15 in the morning. And we just kind of talked and we bonded that way. And Ian was definitely someone I got very close to in the game. Also Morgan, like us 3, we still talk almost every day. And it's a friendship that I'm going to treasure forever.
Yeah. Ian had 3 people vying to be his number 1. So I think he was set if that swap didn't happen in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. So, Jeremy, I have asked a couple people this question. There's some people in the game you didn't have an opportunity to work with, specifically from the Miami tribe. Do you think there was anyone in particular you would have been able to vibe with?
McKenna, we all know that you were the first person to go that I wanted.
Oh yeah, no, I know. And John, I wasn't gonna call you out for reaching out to everyone. I was gonna call you out saying if you and Jeremy and I were on a tribe together, I would have been very much screwed. Like a lot more screwed than I got. So
on the Miami tribe, I would say I really Denny I got to work with, but she was one person I wanted to work with, and I did get to work with her. But Karen was someone that I wanted to work with. I watched season 1, and she was one of the people that I was rooting for, and then I couldn't believe that she just got blindsided right before the merge. And so I was hoping I would get to work with Karen, but it didn't happen. So
finally, someone that comes in here and says, "I want to work with Karen."
Listen, I said that too. I made a mistake, and I will admit to my mistakes.
I would love to have seen Jeremy and Karen work together, to be completely honest. I feel like you guys both complement each other well with how you play the game. You're both super smart. So that could have been a power duo.
Yeah.
Though Karen wanted to work with me, and I don't think Jeremy would have liked that. So
Very true.
Yeah, that could have been good. It's always woulda, coulda, shoulda, and that's just the thing. It depends how everything shakes up in the game. I do want to ask, what do you think your biggest move was in the game? And then what is one move that you wish you would have done?
Biggest move, definitely, I would say the Annabelle vote. And so that at that time, I still felt with our 4 specialists, Ian, Morgan, Annabelle, and myself, I still felt like I was on the bottom. And so I wanted a way to make sure that if we went after one of our own, that it wasn't going to be me. And so that was when I really started talking with Ian and Morgan and spending hours with Ian on Zoom calls. And that night we lost the challenge. Ian and I were trying to figure out a TRHS person that we could vote out where the rest of them would still be able to trust us. And the more like we thought about it, like it wasn't going to happen. And Ian kept asking me like, how do you feel about Annabelle? How do you feel about Annabelle? And I kept saying like, I feel fine about her, but do you want to vote her out? Because that makes sense. And it happened. Like the more we thought about it, it was like, this is the way that it has to go. We have to take out Annabelle. We didn't really want to, but we knew it was better for all of our games.
I guess I have a question with that, though, because I asked Morgan this same question, too, because obviously she had that connection with Rob a little bit. In your mind, did you ever think about pulling Robin for the 5th vote, or no?
No, it never came up. I mean, I think at that point, we were still kind of a little bit specialist and TRHS a little bit. We knew that we wanted to bring in some TRHS people to work with us 3, but we knew it probably wasn't the best time to talk about it yet. And so we were just thinking, okay, just keep Nakota strong for maybe 1 or 2 more votes, and then we'll see how it goes. Yeah. But then the move that I wish that I had made was definitely whenever Carrie flipped. Phill came to Morgan and I saying, Carrie's in a Zoom call right now with us. She's ready to go. She's voting Frank. And Morgan and I were in a...
I made the merge?
Yeah, you didn't know that? Morgan and I were in a Zoom call like that. And we were in the middle for the last, I would say, 2 votes. And we had a decision that we had to make. And we knew at that point, we said, okay, we have to pick a side. And we ended up going with Nakota and telling them the entire plan, what was going on. But I wish that we didn't, and we voted out Frank. But it's the way the game goes.
Yeah.
So we saw this episode, like Phill was like throwing your name out a little bit to try and like get some votes together to vote out someone else. Why did you try and still gun for Frank and not try and like, all right, Phil's going for me, let's go him?
So that day, everything that was going down, Denny sends me a message and say, hey, like we should probably talk after you get off work. And so I'm like, okay. And I knew that we all wanted to vote Frank. That's what we kept saying. And when I got on a call with Denny, it was, Phil's throwing you under the bus. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I'm like the one person he has left. Like, what is he doing? And so Denny tells me what he's trying to do with how the votes between Carrie and myself. And so Denny and I talked for like maybe 20, 30 minutes about trying to come up with a way where we can still get Frank out some way. And so I told Denny, I said, I'm going to make a decision right before we go into tribal. And I'm going to message you if I'm going to vote for Frank or if I'm going to vote for Phill, if I think anything is suspicious. And right before we went in, I messaged Denny and says, I got to go with my gut. Like I have to vote Frank. And I saw her look at her phone and she didn't do anything with it. And I knew immediately, I was like, okay, like I no longer think that she's with us. She's got like, I'm by myself now. And it ended up being Phill. And I was thinking, okay, I got through the Phill vote. Now I can put my end game into action. And
Yeah.
Lauren.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yes, we are going to talk about that real quick. Honestly, you did perform well in that immunity challenge. You're very close. It was you and Rob were up there with Carrie, and then Carrie ended up winning. Then I say we're voting someone out right then, and I tell you guys that you're not allowed to talk. If you guys would have been able to talk, do you think you would have gotten people on your side?
At that point, I was thinking, okay, maybe we can still get Frank. And my end goal was throughout the entire game, I knew that I was underrated as a player. Rob was underrated as a player and Carrie was underrated as a player. I wanted us to go to the final 3. And so I was always going to pitch, okay, us 3 need to band together, take out the rest. And I was just hoping to get through one more vote, and then we take out Phill or Frank, and then we get through the other person that we didn't vote out. And what I didn't know was how close Denny was to Logan and to Frank. I knew she was kind of close with Frank, but I didn't know how much. And so I was hoping that maybe if we were able to talk, that the 4 of us could just vote Frank, and then the 3 of me, Rob, and Carrie could take out Denny if she didn't win immunity, and then we take out Logan at final 4. But we didn't get to talk at Tribal. But I did think about it today, and if I would have just yelled, "I'm voting Frank," even though we weren't allowed to talk, maybe it would have made a difference. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's always tough because I said you guys couldn't talk, and then I was always interested to see what would have happened if you could. And that's a question I'll have to ask everyone else as well. If you guys were able to talk to each other, what they would have specifically done. But I think at that point in time, it would have been beneficial, most likely for some people to have voted out Frank at that moment instead of you.
Yeah.
And even if Jeremy, they did go to Rocks and it was a 3-3 split and it was Jeremy and someone else. I mean, Jeremy's move is either I'm going home now or like I can skate through this vote because he would have been safe at Rocks.
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, you mentioned that you played in an org before this one. Was this more time consuming than the previous one you did?
100%. I knew it was going to be tough, but day one, and I recently just told McKenna this the other day, and I hadn't told anybody else that like I was ready to quit the game day one because it was so time consuming. And we hadn't even played like 12 hours. And so, because my job, it's very hard to just like put everything down. Okay, I got to talk to these people because I'm playing in a game. Sorry, work.
And you guys didn't even have to go to tribal council that day. Like we were scrambling to try and go to tribal council.
Yeah, and so I was really debating. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But then we were in a specialist chat minus Frank on Dakota, and Ian says, I really hope no one quits because that would seriously screw the specialists. And at that point, I was like, okay, I got to make a decision. Like, I either need to start doing really poorly at my job and doing really well in this game, or I kind of do half and half at work and I lose sleep at night. And I chose to lose sleep. I was like, I'm a person that loves to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. And the entire month I was in the game, I was up until 2, 3 in the morning, getting a few hours of sleep and then going to work the next day. It's a decision that I'm glad that I made. But it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I got some confessionals from you later into your game because I feel like you were pretty much purple Jeremy this this season. You and Logan were kind of on the back burner, and you both have like some games that should be shown. So I think you had like a record 3 confessionals in one episode. So
yeah, definitely in the pre-merge, it was all reconnaissance for me. I wanted to get as much information as I could and keep the target on my back small as possible to get to the merge, and then I could really just put the pedal to the metal. And so yeah, during the pre-merge, like we were winning nonstop, and so confessionals were like so far in the back of my mind, like, and so, but it's whatever.
Well, that's what this is for. You're able to express what you were doing behind the scenes, and now I think, in my mind, you were a huge threat in the game, but people just weren't able to see it.
If Jeremy gets to the end, he's got a lot of votes on that jury.
Yeah, and you hear Morgan say, if I get to the end, I have 2 confirmed votes with her and Ian. So,
and I'd say you probably would probably have Phill as well.
Yeah,
if he doesn't make it to the end.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to maybe see you play again in the future, because I feel as though you're someone that has a really strong gameplay.
Though,
Yeah.
I think he might have a little bit of a target this time, so he might have to navigate that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. All this is a learning experience for me, because the past year and a half, I've been applying for the actual show. And these 2 games that I've played are great because I get to learn what I can do, what I should have done better, and evolve my game. And so it's exciting.
It is. Is there one specific thing you would change up, or are you not going to share that?
Definitely just talk more. That is something that I struggle with in my own life. Like, I've told multiple people after the game, like, you really won't get to know the true me unless it's in a one-on-one scenario. Like, group settings, I don't talk much. And you hear that throughout the game. Like,
Pre-game, we were like, who do we pick, Jeremy or Andrew? We didn't know because neither of them talked, and they were the lesser of the threats of John, Frank, Pook.
Yeah.
So we were like, who the heck do we pick? And Jeremy talked just a little bit more. And I think, and he was on every Zoom. He was at least always there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I knew I had to break out of my introvert shell and just be there, be present at least, because you never know what could happen.
Right. All right, McKenna, do you have any more questions for Jeremy? And Jeremy, do you have anything else you want to touch on that we did not go through?
I think I would just say, people think that we're scheming constantly, or at least I think they probably think that we are. But there were definitely some fun moments we had on Dakota. Like, there was one night where we were on a 6-hour Zoom call on a Saturday evening, and it started out just me, Morgan, and Ian, and people were just filtering in and out. And the 3 of us, we had a joke going that we were interviewing people for our Final Four. Like, they were coming in and out. So
I'm glad you guys had those moments.
Miami did not.
So we had like one day of bliss and then got sad because it was Annabelle. But Lauren's question of would you play again?
100%. Yeah.
Great. Maybe we can work together, Jeremy.
Maybe.
Do you think you can trust me?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on this season. You're definitely someone I would like to see play again in the future for sure.
Yeah, and thank you guys for having me. I had a blast. What you guys put into the show is incredible. So applause to you guys. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thanks, McKenna, for joining me as well. We got Ryan to pop in for a second. He
wasn't able to talk because of his reception, but
internet connection was out. But he tried. The internet connection was out.
He made the effort. So
yes. All right. Thanks so much for joining us. The next episode will be dropping on Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and then we will be live again at 9 p.m. Eastern time with the person that is voted out of the game. Thanks again for joining us tonight.